Great to have Ian Castleberry playing with us with Barrett Sports Media and with us Thursdays to talk NFL Gold Nuggets. And Ian's appearance presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers. Ian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. How about you guys?
Yeah, I feel about the same, man. This weather ain't helping. It's a bit stressful, I think, at times. But it sure is great to have you in and ready to go. Let's head over to Charlotte. And for Panthers fans, Ian, who may be wondering, why Matt Corral over Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis? The team had a chance to go after both those guys, but they passed on them. And now the Panthers are saying why they did that.
Yeah, it's not exactly clear. They had Matt Corral as one of their top three quarterbacks in the draft. And in the Panthers' defense, every team passed on these quarterbacks other than the Steelers. And sometimes I think if the Steelers had to do it all over again, would they have picked Kenny Pickett in the first round, pick number 20, if they knew that's how the rest of this draft would go? We won't know. But whether it's Ben McAdoo or Matt Rule, we don't know exactly what they were looking for in a quarterback. You know, why did they like Matt Corral over Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis? So, you know, was it his footwork? Was it his release? Was it the fact that Corral played in a largely passing offense as opposed to Kenny Pickett played in a more traditional style, Malik Willis a little bit more RPO. I mean, they're all the same age. They're each 23 years old. Their stats are comparable. I mean, Corral played 3 years as a full-time starter at Ole Miss. Pickett played 5 seasons at Pitt, including, I think he got an extra season because of the COVID season. And Willis played 2 seasons at Liberty after beginning at Auburn. So it's not entirely clear why they liked Corral, but obviously they valued him enough to trade up into the third round where they did not have a pick, making a deal with the Patriots to get Corral, who it looks like could be the quarterback of the future in Carolina.
Yeah, Mike, it's interesting, and it seems like Ben McAdoo did have maybe the final word in this. Shoop talks about this, where he'll be honest as an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach, and they'll say, "Hey, we're looking to draft this guy," and John will be like, "I don't know if I can work with him," or "Yes, I would. Yes, he and I could really help develop his game." So I'm guessing this is kind of more from the Ben McAdoo and and not that I'm questioning the pick of Corral. After what we saw with the draft, I think either one of those guys, I mean, I think it's even Steven moving forward with all of these QBs.
McAdoo had some good work there at Ole Miss, and you've got him against some higher competition. The SEC, you can't get much better than that. So it's a crapshoot, as you so well put, and hopefully for the Panthers, this will go right there. But yes, obviously that's why they brought McAdoo in to tutor hopefully the next quarterback for the next 10 years for the Panthers. And you got to. We've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more times. It starts the quarterback. You just gotta. The days of Trent Dilfer winning Super Bowls are over with.
Yeah, QB is your CEO. That's how it works in today's NFL. Ian, so Colin Kaepernick works out for the Raiders. First time a team has reached out to Cap since his being exiled for peacefully kneeling during a national anthem back in 2016. And Ian, we're not really getting any reports yet on how that workout went. Where's your feel on where the Raiders go on this?
My feeling is it's good PR for the Raiders, and it helps Colin Kaepernick if it turns out he did perform well at this workout. Maybe other teams were looking, or other teams can call the Raiders and see, what did you see, what did you like, even if the Raiders don't have room on their roster for Kaepernick. And in looking at their roster right now, obviously things could change between now and training camp, but they look pretty loaded at quarterback. I don't know if there's really a spot for Kaepernick. Obviously, Derek Carr is the starter, but Nick Mullins is a backup quarterback now, and he's pretty accomplished. In 2020, he threw for 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, although also 12 interceptions. Jarrett Stidham, who for a while looked like maybe he was being considered for the quarterback position in New England. And then they drafted Chase Garbers out of Cal. He was a 4-year starter at Cal, threw for 6,500 yards, 50 touchdowns. So Kaepernick is 34 years old. He hasn't played since 2016. It's difficult to see where he fits in on the Raiders, but maybe the Raiders are doing him a favor here.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that, and Mike and I were discussing this in the open, do you feel that the fact now that Kaepernick has said, hey, look, I'm good with being a backup, that may open up some doors for him?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a concern early on, is that Kaepernick maybe believed he was a starter and wouldn't have fit in on a roster. Maybe he could have been a potential problem if he thought he should be starting rather than a backup. But, he's not going to be a starter. So, yeah, I think that's accepting reality, certainly for Kaepernick. And, yeah, maybe making him more amenable to teams signing him. And even though, Kaepernick's 34, he hasn't played in 6 years, but I'm still presuming that he is better than some of the backup quarterbacks that are there in the NFL. And then also, we have a 17-game regular season now. How likely is it that a quarterback's going to play all of those games? And there's even maybe still a COVID consideration here. The protocols aren't in place anymore, but, during 2020, teams were just kind of hoarding quarterbacks because you never knew who was going to test positive and be unavailable. So I think teams are looking to build quarterback depth, and Colin Kaepernick could still be an upgrade at backup quarterback for some teams.
Obviously, the big question, though, with the Raiders right now in their quarterback situation, not so much Kaepernick and Carr's big salary, but where does Nathan Peterman fit into the Raiders quarterback situation?
Sorry, we shouldn't be laughing.
I was looking at the depth chart. I didn't see his name.
I think he's finally been waived, and he's hopefully back in Pittsburgh now. Working on his degree.
Oh, he's with the Bears.
Wow. Okay, well, that makes sense. That's a great fit.
Mitch Trubisky for Nathan Peterman.
Oh, my God. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how this plays out. And hey, look, Jared Stidham, let's face it, that guy's when's the last time he's walked on a field in a game? He's been a huge disappointment for New England, but maybe Josh McDaniels says, that was with Belichick. I still like something in this kid. We'll see where it goes, but it's a good point. This could open up some more doors for Colin Kaepernick. Where the door may be closing on Jon Gruden? Not quite yet, guys. Former Raiders coach suing the NFL for leaking emails that got him fired from the Raiders. Remember all that misogynistic language? And, trust me, Gruden seems to be like a bit of a horn dog. But nonetheless, a judge yesterday in Nevada ruled in favor of Gruden, and the NFL is appealing the decision, of course. But should the league be concerned in this case, if this case rather goes to discovery, where things could get nasty?
Yeah, I think so. This was dismissed. The NFL was arguing that either the case should be thrown out or that it should go to arbitration. And Gruden argued that, I'm not an employee of the NFL, of an NFL team anymore, so I don't agree to having a third-party arbitrator. And the judge apparently was concerned that a third-party arbitrator would be Roger Goodell. And how objective would he be in such a situation? Yeah, I think that there's a huge concern for the NFL. If you're the NFL, I think you want to settle this before it goes to trial or while it's in trial. Because if this does go, if all these emails are revealed as part of the trial, I think it's 650,000 emails that I saw. But, why were Gruden singled out? Why were these emails held until mid-season? Did Goodell look at Gruden as a scapegoat and say the Raiders were kind of struggling? Okay, you need to make a move. It'll be convenient for everybody. But also, what is in those other emails? And in particular, as pertains to the Washington Commanders and Daniel Snyder, which is how this whole thing came about to begin with. This has to do with the league's investigation into workplace and sexual misconduct in the Commanders organization. Snyder is already on shaky ground right now, and there could be information in those emails that could either, confirm or some of the workplace misconduct or some of the other things that we've heard are going on that, from a financial standpoint, that the Commanders were withholding revenues from other teams and kind of screwing over the other teams in the league.
Speaking of Daniel Snyder, quickly, Ian, it seems like some NFL owners would be okay with, hey, open up all those emails. There seems to be a groundswell of support developing or occurring now among the league owners. A lot of them are frustrated and kind of over Daniel Snyder. Could that go another level?
Yeah, I mean, they could treat Daniel Snyder basically the way they treated Jon Gruden, right? Just use him like a scapegoat. Hey, look at these emails. Oh, we got to get rid of this guy. So that would certainly be evidence that would support their case, and we can't have him. One other thing I forgot to mention, though, is that This could also help Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL, because if there is stuff in those emails about coaching hiring practices and coaches that weren't hired or weren't even interviewed, even if there was no reason that they shouldn't be, that they were qualified, but any teams sidestep the Rooney Rule process or anything like that. But yes, to answer your question, I think the owners could use this as an excuse to get rid of somebody who is becoming increasingly untenable.
And what do you say on that, Mike Daniels? Who, honestly, I say, good riddance. I mean, this guy's done nothing for the NFL, and he really hasn't done a whole lot for his team. He seems like a pretty questionable guy, what we know about him. And I'm wondering if these emails would just open up an avalanche.
I think that's certainly a possibility, because he certainly there's been a lot of weird stuff that's happened under his tutelage, especially the last few years. So, yeah, we saw it happen a couple years ago with the Panthers owner. When some stuff came out, and
Jerry Richardson,
and he was gone. Now, he made a pretty penny on the way out and everything like that.
Billions.
But nevertheless, they got him out of there. And so I'm sure. I think the NFL would like to get rid of him, because it just seems like every time we talk about Daniel Snyder, it's not good.
Yeah.
And let's face it, that's a premier NFL franchise in the NFC East, right in the middle of the media markets, with great tradition now, and now with the name change and such, it seemed like it'd be a nice time to start over.
That's a great way to put it. Now is the time to start anew and start fresh. We'll see where this one plays out. That's definitely a developing story with the NFL owners and Dan Snyder. As Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines and our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by DC and the great staff at 269 Tunnel Road. Ian, is Baker Mayfield of the Panthers still a possibility? I keep reading reports. The Panthers are keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, I think it's still a possibility, even though that proposed trade or trade discussions during the NFL draft fell through, and that's why the Panthers drafted Matt Corral. But it's still such a good fit in terms of Mayfield as a quarterback for the team that you have to think this could still be a possibility. It's not a good fit in terms of salary, which is why Mayfield hasn't been traded yet. Now, I don't know if there's a possibility that the Browns could have more salary cap room after June 1st, after roster bonuses are paid or dead cap numbers go down and certain players could be released. But I still say, as long as you're another NFL team, why would you make a trade for Baker Mayfield and have to pay him $18 million or even $12 million? Let's say any team talks the Browns into paying, $6-8 million of that salary. Why wouldn't you say, look, we think you're going to have to cut him, so we're just going to wait for that? And I think that might be where the Panthers are at this point.
Yeah, first, I keep wondering, too. I've been thinking about this recently, especially hearing more. I thought we were done with Baker Mayfield, but doesn't seem to be the case with the Panthers, Mike. And I keep thinking, well, why not just trade it straight up? Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold. They make about the same amount of money, and they each have 1 year left on their deal. Why not just, if they believe in Baker Mayfield enough, of course, can you imagine Sam Darnold? They finally build an offensive line. They're like, all right, we're going to bring in Baker Mayfield. But I still think if they're waiting, I was using this example the other day because I'm one of these like Animal Planet guys, and it's kind of like the crocodile that's at the Nile River and just sitting there waiting for that zebra to jump into the water and start swimming across. I feel like that's what a lot of NFL teams are doing right now. They're the crocodiles. They're waiting. They're just waiting for Cleveland to drop Baker Mayfield, and then it's going to be a feeding frenzy with the few teams. But Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold. That would clear this up really fast.
I think that would be great for Sam Darnold going to a team that should be pretty good this year, the Browns,
and whose quarterback may be out for
that Deshaun Watson situation just has not been settled just yet. There's going to be, you've got to feel like there's going to at least be some kind of suspension, and or unless the Browns know something that we don't. But it just seems like Deshaun cannot just skate by this just like a game or two suspension, or just he's ready to go. Game one, here he goes and stuff. I can't see that. And I mean, of course, if Darnell does go to Cleveland, I mean, he's eventually going to be the backup by the time Watson gets there. But it's pretty good insurance if you're the Browns. You got to if Watson goes down or if he's out for a while or something like that, or Watson plays for a while, then something else comes up. He sees more massage therapists up to. He sees more. What's he up to? 40 massage therapists he's seen or something like that. Just insane. So and you put and Darnell is a very capable backup and a guy that's been a starter, and all he's got to do is hand the ball off that those good running backs they have and stuff. So
they got a good receiving core.
And say what you want Baker, and he's immature in a lot of ways, but they did go to the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
he's surrounded with people. This whole waiting game is just like
it's tough for everybody. And I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield fan either, but nevertheless, I mean this is tough for him as well.
We're joined by Ian Castleberry with Barrett Sports Media, and of course Thursdays here with the Wise Guys talking NFL Gold Nuggets, presented by David Kriesman and DC Kriesman Jewelers. So Ian, finally the Steelers have a new general manager, and it looks like the organization is staying home with this hire.
Yeah, this has always been the Steelers' way of doing business, is promoting from within, and that's exactly what they've done, naming Omar Khan their general manager. He's been with the Steelers organization for 21 years. He began in the football operations department and moved up to football administration, and then before being named general manager, he was the vice president of football and business administration, and in that role, he was managing the Steelers' salary cap. So that will almost certainly be his primary role as general manager. And the Steelers have also hired 2 assistant general managers who it appears will be more concerned with personnel. Sheldon White, who was a scout last year for the Washington Commanders. He has a background in pro personnel. He was a recruiting coordinator at Michigan State. And then Andy Weidel, who was the Eagles' vice president of player personnel. So, the way these front offices are set up right now, maybe Sheldon White will be more in charge of college scouting and Weidel will be more in charge of player personnel. Both of them report to Omar Khan, and he's going to oversee salary cap. One thing, though, about the Steelers front office that may develop from this is that their current pro scouting coordinator, Brandon Hunt, appears to be squeezed out here because he could have gotten one of those assistant general manager positions. It's possible, reports are that he's going to go over to the Eagles in a vice president position, maybe taking over Andy Weidel's position there in the Eagles and maybe setting himself up for if and when Howie Roseman steps down as general manager or retires, that maybe Brandon Hunt could step in and take over there. He also interviewed for the Bills' assistant GM job and didn't get it this season. So Brandon Hunt has been looking to move up, and he may have reached his ceiling with the Steelers now that they named Omar Khan as general manager.
Got it. All right. There you have it, folks. Ian Castleberry laying it out quickly, Michael. What you got on
Tom Brady. We haven't heard from him in about 10 days, so should we put him in a milk carton? Should we?
Didn't you see his hole-in-one yesterday?
Oh, you just ruined it for him, Ian.
Oh, sorry.
See, Mike?
Well, we didn't see it go in, right?
That's right.
No, I haven't. So,
well, he'll let us know about it in some way. It'll interrupt. It'll interrupt the Coca-Cola 600 or something like that. He'll find a way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I blew the joke there.
Oh no, hey, look, it'll be.
Let me know beforehand.
Yeah, during the Coca-Cola 600, it's like Tom Brady crashed on his bike. He scraped his knee, but we think he's going to be okay. So there you have it. Get ready, Mike.
Maybe he'll have a grilling mishap or something like that.
Yeah, man. He flipped the burger on his head.
Could we go a week without Tom Brady news? Is that
we
possible?
could have if you didn't bring it up for crying out loud.
Possible? No, it would have been brought up at some point.
We almost made it. We got to run. Great stuff, Ian Castleberry, as always, friend. Have a great holiday week. We'll catch up with you next Thursday.
Okay, great, guys. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Appreciate you, Ian. Thanks so much. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys, of course, presented by David Kriesman and DC Kriesman Jewelers.